Our first court date is today. I'm anxious. I think I've stopped liking her as a person. The way she rewrites our past is insulting. Everything she does is a slight or some sort of insult. Logistical conversations about our daughter turns into a disagreement. Before, I would just kind of go along with things. Now if I disagree, she gets furious. I'm not here to control, but she tries to control me through our daughter. I'll drop her off at 6, which turns into 6:30 or after. Little things like this, and it happens every single time. Now that I've learned a little about the narcissist, I can predict her actions and words fairly accurately. My depression has changed as well. When I do get depressed now, it's 90% regarding my daughter. I feel incredibly sad for her. Sad that she's innocent and going this. Sad because she doesn't deserve it. I will admit to frustration when the STBX lies to me. I can tell she's lying and it just frustrates me. It's childish and really, stop. Then I go back to not liking her as a person. As petty as this may sound, I would absolutely love for her to ask me back. Court went better than expected. She tried to paint me as an abuser and of course, it didn't stick. At least I hope not, because I'm not. It came out that I have our daughter 80% plus of time. Even on days she could come get her daughter, she doesn't. Time that she has off of work, she still doesn't want to come get her. Her Facebook posts were also added into evidence. Her staying up until 3 a.m., getting drunk and posting things, stating she is drunk, while she has our daughter cannot look good. She was also asked what time she gets off of work on Mondays and Fridays. My lawyer asked why she gets off so early, yet I still have our daughter. No 3 to 4 hour visits, no 2 hour visits, not even a half an hour. I still have her when she's off work other than the 2 to 3 days a week we agreed on. She put herself into a part-time parent role, yet she is asking for full custody. The judge said that he'd like to have his decision by the end of the week. However, until that time, nothing will change. I don't see him changing anything since I have our daughter considerably more, yet I don't know. It's a waiting game at this point. My plan is, in the event the schedule remains the same, I will postpone as often as possible, as to create a lengthy time frame that I have had my daughter more. So, if I can provide a record of several months of me having her more, then it can only benefit. I do not feel she is worried about the welfare of our daughter, at least not to the extent that I do. If she cared as much as she would like people to believe, she wouldn't have demanded that I move into my mother's one-bedroom apartment so that our daughter and I could sleep on the floor 4 to 5 nights a week. They also asked why I have such a low-paying job. My attorney then asked me why I have it. It was because of her wonky schedule, and we wanted our daughter at home more than at a sitter, and it was her idea that I take one for the team and take the job until our daughter hits first grade at least. It doesn't seem that it went her way. I left the courthouse in a pretty decent mood. It actually felt like a small victory. Perhaps I'm being too optimistic. Almost everything they tried to use to make me look bad kind of backfired. Seeing her on stand lying so effortlessly sucked the love for her I had out of my heart. It feels clear to me, I could be wrong, that she isn't as worried about her daughter as she is beating me. This is puzzling to me. How she can manufacture me as an enemy when I didn't do anything to hurt her baffles me, but I'm focused on getting past this. It still hurts. I'm still sad. But I want her to go away more than I ever have. I am prepared for the worst. Fathers in custody are ugly. As if we love our children less. I've got counseling scheduled, but it's 3 weeks away. She hasn't used in years and hasn't been convicted of it for quite a few years. With that being said, I was sure to bring it up anyway. My attorney had copies of her history. I'm not sure how much of an impact it will have since it's been so long. The courts are not always logical. I should know the judge's orders tonight. Before we left court the other day, he said until his provisional orders are in place, nothing changes. That feels like a good sign. Funny, the ex was furious and has been. Usually when my daughter is dropped off, she's late. Last night she was an hour late. Her physical abuse hasn't taken place in years as well, but it's taken a different form. She follows a NPD playbook. Same phrases, same actions. The gaslighting. Everything. Every thought I had was dismissed as being some sort of problem I had. Every concern was imaginary. Everything I did was wrong, no matter how trivial. And it got to the point that I had unwittingly become dependent. So, I was, and codependent, but I don't believe I was prior. Before I met her, I lived alone and casually dated for 8 years. Now, I seem unable at times to think or remember clearly. Making decisions sometimes gives me a hard desire to contact her and ask her opinion. I used to say to her that, I don't sneeze without consulting you first. Then I thought I was being a good husband, including my wife in choices and decisions. Now in hindsight, I know I was conditioned. There is so much more that I'm learning now about why things were the way they were. Now knowing that there was no compromise, she made excuses for everything she did, and the rest was my fault without exception, probably has done significant damage. If you want to call that abuse, then I have read that there is evidence that it is. What once was physical just moved into another form. I'm not frightened of this woman physically or what she might say. I'm frightened of what she may do. She has the capability of completely destroying my life and has shown she lacks empathy of any sort. She is dangerous. The court order came back. I have my daughter 1 night less a week, bringing it down to 4 nights a week instead of 5. Nobody pays support. I'm confused as to why the judge did this after asking if our current schedule was working. Now that I have been on the outside for a while, her behavior is telling. Her means of control are easier to see. I do not speak to her very often outside of things regarding our daughter, but a few days ago, she said 3 things that allowed me to see who she really is and how she controlled me. This was the day after court. 1. You know, we could have handled this like adults. We could have sat down and worked all of this out. But you just had to get a lawyer and drag it out. Of course, I'm immature for seeking legal counsel. Equal control. 2. You know, I'm trying really, really hard to be nice to you through this. This is another threat. The translation is, if I don't start getting my way, I'm going to make you pay. 3. I don't think our friendship will be able to withstand what you're doing. Trying for custody. I just don't think I could be friends after this. Every time I see you, I'll think of you trying to take my kid away from me, and I don't believe I could be friends after that. This is when I had to say something. I told her that ship has sailed. The friendship aspect is dead. The last thing she said was, I need to go, this conversation is pissing me off. I told her I didn't care. This was the last time she attempted a conversation with me, and it's been over a week. My feelings are gradually changing. Someone that would do this to their family, to someone they claim to love, to their children, is a puss. I do still miss what I thought she was, but it's going away. I wouldn't say that I hate her, just that I do not like her. When I see her during pickups and drop-offs, she irritates me without saying a word. When I do hear her voice or see her, it still stirs feelings, but it doesn't ruin my day anymore. There is something odd. She doesn't seem to want me anywhere near the house. She is more than willing to drop our daughter off each and every time. Our child is an extension of herself. I remember her saying that she didn't want to keep her from me. She did when she first left, 4 to 5 days with no contact, and that she didn't want child support. In court, not only did she ask for child support but full custody as well. She has and continues to show who she really is. How could I have been so blind? As much as I love my daughter, I have an unbearable amount of sadness that this is who her mother is. I have my ups and down days, mostly due to sorrow for my daughter. The fact that the job I have is due to what decided to keep our daughter home more is now a punishment. The financial depression is hitting me like a bag of bricks. I made the mistake of holding her slightly responsible and asked her to give me a financial hand with groceries. I'm not in this position because of what I wanted to be, so I asked her last night. Instant regret. I won't make that same mistake again. I cannot find a job fast enough, and the one I have isn't cutting it. The apartment I live in snow showers me with depression the second I walk in it. Having a hard time finding a solution. Thinking straight and on task has become a chore. The last couple days have been super stressful. I'll find something soon. There is really only one way out of this hole, and it's up. I had somehow convinced myself that she could, should, and would help, considering this is her mess. I was wrong. I can go a week or 2 and not talk to her, then I relapse. After I look back in retrospect, I see it. She's not thinking about me, so why do I focus on her? Almost immediately I feel shamed for having said anything to her. I have found that the less I get any exercise, the more these feelings pop up. And to be fair, a lot of my depression and sadness is rests on the back of my daughter. Anger and hatred are becoming more and more familiar. My 4-year-old didn't deserve any of this, and she has the nerve to get short with me. And yesterday was the first time I spoke to her about anything other than logistics in a while. I don't know if this was a good or bad habit to start, but since this all started, we each call and speak to our daughter before she goes to sleep. We both call to tell her goodnight. Now that it started, I'm not sure it should stop. So, for a while, I just hang up after she says goodnight and vice versa. Last night I just said something before the hang up. And it's not so much that I feel terrible about myself, rather my situation. I'm not fixing things quite fast enough. But yes, you're absolutely right. Talking to her is emotional torture. I just needed some help and thought it prudent to ask it from the one causing the trouble. Something else that I would like to know is, why am I having such a hard time with this? My own relapses aside, why are this one hard? Before I met her, I lived alone with my oldest daughter for 8 years. I dated, but nothing serious, so why am I banging my head against a wall on this? Is it just because I have a child with her? Well, I suppose a good thing to come from this is that I don't have to worry about her coming back to me. Or rather, me taking her back should she ask. I will admit to having fantasies about her asking me back. For example, pretending to want to work on our marriage and secretly putting weight gain in all of her food until she gains 150 pounds, then leaving her. Thoughts like that make me smile. But no, there is no way I would even consider the thought of being with her again. She left on May 4th and it's July. I know hate isn't healthy, but I flirt with it every day. If I could just shake this guilt. Like I said previously, I feel as if I have denied a fair life for my daughter. I have lost 30 pounds. And once I actually shake the guilt and stress, I can see improvement on the horizon. I want to drop another 20 pounds and get back to running shape again. Years ago, I started a novel and lost it due to not backing up my hard drives. I should do it again. I think about bonding a lot, but I think it's a distraction. I should really stay away from females for at least a year, I suspect. I also start therapy in a week and a half. I have a feeling that there is permanent damage. I have given thought to suicide but couldn't do that to my mother. And it would be considerably selfish to my daughters. However, I need to reverse whatever happened inside my head. Never thought I'd be excited about therapy. She didn't have that job when we first got together. In fact, I had a pretty good position then. She got lucky with her job now. Update: last night she dropped our daughter off and she was friendly. She commented on how much weight I've lost. A friendly conversation ensued. She did ask if I got the brakes changed in my Jeep and I replied, I didn't have the cash. I moved out with just enough to pay a couple months' rent and buy a few things. But that was it. He was amicable and it was a nice change. I'm not going to get used to this, but it sure was a nice break. I have also been talking to someone. About 7 weeks ago, while I was getting ready to go to sleep, I was scrolling through Facebook and noticed a post by a woman I didn't really know. Unsure of how or why she was on my friends list. She posted something about a narcissist. I wrote her on Messenger and asked her about it. She is going through something similar, and over the course of the last few weeks, we've talked with one another about our situations. We would talk a lot when we had our bad days, and over the next few weeks, it's evolved into just small talk and minor flirting. A while ago, I made some dating site profiles. Not to really date, but just to meet and make friends. My profiles pretty clearly state, going through a divorce and I'm just really interested in making friends at this point. A few women have written, but I'm just not interested in taking it farther or anything. Don't even really feel like dating, to be honest. But the one woman I've been talking to for a while is getting inside my head. We've been each other's crutch, and now that's not anywhere as bad as it was. She's just nice to talk to. It's to the point where we text every day and sometimes several times a day. I follow the rules and don't bug her. And if I go a day without speaking to her, she'll send me a text or two. You are doing okay, honey, sweetie, dear, etc. I told her once that being called those sweet names makes me melt. She's done it ever since. I know anything romantic would be a bad idea at this point, but I am still a male with a libido, and it's been since being touched by a female. We both have discussed that we are in no place to date or get into anything romantic. However, the texts and conversations seem to be leading to just that. I think that if we can keep each other at arm's length, a good friendship will come from it. Yes, she's younger, 30, and yes, she's pretty. I look a lot younger for my age, so I don't really think about it. Younger women aren't anything I seek out, it just kind of happens. I'm anxious to get into therapy more than anything right now. I'm not as sad as often as I was, but I still really want to go. My bad days are really bad. The hopelessness is overwhelming, but this only really happens when my daughter is gone. 85% of how awful I feel is due to my daughter. My wife, however, is a lying and cheating bee. I stumble when I think of how happy I was, but she put on a brilliant act and had me fooled. Also, is impatience normal during this? I want my situation fixed now. Progress is slow and it's frustrating. I know that I fell in love with the wrong person, that she was immature, selfish, etc. I know she wasn't what and who I thought she was, and that I actually fell in love with an illusion. I have good days, but it feels as if my bad days just keep getting worse. I miss that illusion. I miss it so much, and I'm sick of feeling this way. In hindsight, I know I focused so much on her. I made her and my family my focal point. Everything was put to the wayside other than them. Now it feels as if I'm paying the price. I posted in another thread where someone is asking about a timeline on how long it takes to actually start feeling better. If I'm not completely distracted by anything, I start to feel it again, and it feels more intense than the last time. When I start to feel this way, I think that's got to be a growing pain. Hopefully the worst yet. But it isn't. The therapy session is not coming fast enough. The guilt is eating me alive. I envy those that can say screw them, walk away, forget her, and enjoy life. I have always understood that no matter how bad things are, they can always be worse. Why can't I shake this intense sorrow? I am so tired of feeling this way. What hasn't changed is the depression I feel once I walk into my apartment. It's the ghetto and I hate being there. Being broke now is tough. Finding a new job isn't as easy as I initially thought. I still miss her. I really miss the family unit. I never really had one, and now that I'm 43, starting over has a bit of a sting. What has changed was how I interact with her and how I speak to her. A couple weeks ago I continued to be nice in my interactions with her. Trying to discuss things with our daughter was tough. Hey, could you have a talk with her about talking to strangers, was the last nice thing I said to her. The hateful attitude reached a tipping point after I told her to lose her attitude. Logistics regarding our daughter was at the point where having to discuss anything with her ruined part of my day. She went off on my one day with her typical crap. We could have handled this like adults, but you just had to get an attorney. I'm trying to be nice to you, etc. That was it. I finally said what I had to. I said everything that was on my mind. Everything I tiptoed around but never said, etc. It felt good getting that crap off of my chest. Some of you disagree with this, but I didn't want to hold it in anymore. I said what I thought, then at the end stated that she will start speaking to me with respect. That was almost a week ago. Interactions with her are amicable now. Now what is changing and has changed? I don't have my rock bottom days anymore. I'm still sad, but they aren't what they used to be. I started lifting again. I walk several miles a week, around 25 to 30. I've lost 33 pounds since this started and I'm excited about keeping it going. Go to the movies with my daughter once a week. Go out with friends once a week as well. And I go to a therapist. 4 things in a row helped. I didn't have any internal direction and the 4 things set a path for me. First, I had a day where I cried. I hadn't had a day since 4 days after she left. Everything emotionally boiled over and I spent a day crying every few minutes. Second, the book. It helped. A lot, in fact. Third, telling her what I really thought without a filter. Getting that crap off of my chest helped. Fourth, the therapist. Putting things into perspective. My STBX is sick. Very, in fact. I was just in the way of a destructive force. I legitimately fell in love but with a damaged person. Of course, I kind of knew this, however she has done significant damage to me. My therapist has discussed PTSD and it's being discussed. I actually feel better. Slowly but progress. Something strange has happened. She's nice. Almost flirty. Almost. Ever since I called her a lying bee, her attitude has changed. My daughter's first day of school was the other day and we both went to that in orientation. She wanted to joke around and a couple times touched my arm ever so gently. I didn't reciprocate. She asked if she could come over before our daughter's first day of school and do her hair. I said yes. It didn't really matter to me as I had to get ready and had no time to chat with her. A day or so after that, she came by to drop off school stuff. She came dressed up. My wife is pretty, but that day she looked really good. I didn't even recognize her when I answered the door. My initial thought was, holy hell, how can I help you? Then I realized it was her. I asked her why she looked like that and she said she had a golf thing to go to for work and drove around in a golf cart serving beer. Of course, you did. But it seems as if she made it a point to come over and flaunt. What the hell is this all about? Is it because I've lost weight and can slightly see I've started lifting? Is she jealous? I don't think she's trying to reconcile as she keeps bringing me stuff from the house that belongs to me. I don't swoon over her anymore. Actually, you could probably say I'm downright rude to her. A small confession here. I kind of enjoy talking and treating her like this. I sincerely believe to my very core that she's not a good person. Not a good person with some bad flaws, but an actual piece of crap. I don't use the word B when I see her, but it's suggested and I get a kick out of it. Not in front of our daughter though. But I'm not so sure I am or will ever be a plan B in her eyes. She is utterly consumed with how others view her and she has spent a lot of time on the smear campaign against me. Unless of course it could be just bonding that she's after, but I wouldn't entertain that idea. Not unless she was neck deep in another relationship, marriage, and I could record it. Then again, she's proven that she can and will keep a secret, so maybe she wants me as a secret plan B. The Head Start program is not for my daughter. Deep down I suspected that it was a beneficial thing for her. Well, when I found out the hours of Head Start, it became clear of what her intentions are. I have to be at work no later than 8. If I don't take a lunch, I can leave at 3:30. Head Start is from no earlier than 8 and no later than 3:15. Guess who comes to the rescue? Oh, it's no problem. I can pick her up and drop her off every day but Friday. Work lets me come in a few minutes late on Mon and Tues. I didn't want her to take over any more than she already is. If what you're saying is correct, and I believe you're right, then it's a way to help me and also show the court that she can provide more and be there for our daughter more. Our daughter's birthday is in a few days as well and she's planning a birthday party. Without saying she didn't want me there flat out, she suggested it. It's a shame too because it's a 4-year-old and whatever psycho agenda she has just hurt our daughter. In all of this, she's being nice. The ego thing makes perfect sense. Do women typically kick it up a bit if their ego isn't being satisfied? Speaking of her ego, when one of us has our daughter, the other calls to say good night. It's usually on speakerphone so one of us can translate 3/4-year-old, and in my case, I do it to sound cheerful as if everything is okay. I do this for our daughter. Last night, there was someone there with her tickling her and messing with her during the phone call as if to rub my face in it or at the very least, complete disregard. This is not the first time it's happened. The first time was much more graphic and were lots of noises. What the hell compiles someone to act like this? As if everything else wasn't enough. Someone said earlier in this thread that hurt people. Indeed, I thought about just cutting off the phone calls altogether due to last night. However, I enjoy calling our daughter at night and telling her I love her. If I cut it off, she will too. I think this may be something I'm just going to have to suck up. I can act like it doesn't bother me all day long, but once I have to put my head down and go to sleep, I'm so furious that it takes almost 2 hours. I've considered meditation. I'll probably start doing it with or without the calls anyway. Therapy is helping tremendously. My childhood trauma is why I latched onto this particular woman. I have a long way to go in that department. I still allow the phone calls because I enjoy calling my daughter and telling her goodnight. My wife's attitude is that she's the one that's been betrayed. She will occasionally bring up that I got a lawyer instead of sitting down with her and her lawyer and working it out like adults. She still brings up I moved out of the house on a day she didn't choose. She still complains about how I've been handling court. She no longer has a hand on the wheel and it's liberating. She is now visibly worried that she might lose custody, or at least partial custody, and have to pay child support. She told me the other day that she thinks that I hate her. Good. Whatever she says is more like water rather than the glue that it was before. The more BS she says or pulls, the stronger my resolve. In the meantime, I started lifting again for the first time in 20 years. I walk around 40 miles a week. I started another book, and I've lost 31 pounds. Therapy has helped tremendously. She doesn't feel that I am codependent but rather just a run-of-the-mill spouse of narcissistic abuse. Oh, and I've started antidepressants. I still get sad that I lived a lie and that the person I thought I knew wasn't real, but I realize that I miss the illusion. Sometimes I want put back in the Matrix just because that was my first real family. At least what I thought was real anyway. Something happened in the last couple weeks and wanted to share. A couple weeks ago during one of our daughter exchanges, she says something to me before putting my daughter in the car. Tomorrow is our daughter's picture day. I need to go get her shoes so I can bring her over to your apartment after. Also, I know what I want her to wear and I would like to come over in the morning and do her hair before you go to work. I'll bring her outfit with me. She worked midnights on this particular night. I replied, you should have thought of this. Now this is my time and as far as I know, they don't take pictures of her feet. Fine, whatever. Don't want to infringe on your time. She put our daughter in the car and I drove away. After some thought, I decided now is the time I draw the line. I called her back. Look, if you want to discuss an idea, we will discuss it. You cannot dictate anything on the days I have her. You cannot control me or what I do anymore. What even gives you the right to decide what she will or won't wear on my days? What gives me the right? I pushed her out of me. Screw you. Then hung up. After 45 minutes or so I began to get a little worried that I may get a visit from the police that who knows what she will accuse me of, but just aware she can be unstable. I called her back to diffuse whatever potential accusations I may or may not get. So, the last time we spoke before then other than stuff that regarded our daughter was weeks before then, and this was the last time we spoke about anything other than her. I listened quietly as she again blamed me for everything. But I don't care to even process it anymore. It is here that I realize that whatever conflict we have ever had, no matter how great or minimal, is when I have stood up to her. Finally, it's here that I realized it. Why is this important to mention? In the time since she left May 4th, the last couple months have seen the entrance and exit of a couple women. I ended discussions with these women and whatever it was between them because it's just not fair. I don't want a wife substitute and I still need time. But, when being honest with them about my situation and describing my soon-to-be ex, I recognized a theme. She is not a good person. As in, she is not a good human. She's a bad human in the way you would think Hitler is a bad human. This is important because the logic centers have taken over, or at the very least, is considerable. Fast forward to 4 days ago. The last few days have been tough. I did something what initially seems irrational, but wait for it. I sent her a text that said, I miss your feet on me. I miss our wondrous conversations. I miss having rice and damn near every dinner. I miss being a parent 2 feet away from you. And, I wish I didn't love you. Of course, she didn't respond. She hasn't responded to anything like this since she left, but I didn't want her need her to this time. In fact, I remember thinking that I didn't want her to respond. At the time I didn't know why I felt compelled to say that, but I just wanted to. The next few days I felt an intense loneliness, despair, and sadness. This is especially true for yesterday. It felt like death. Some of you know where this is going. It was almost too much to handle. The good thing is, I had a therapist appointment yesterday. I told my therapist that I was so happy to have felt this on the same day I got to see her. I went on about what I was feeling and that it felt as if something or someone had died. I told her that I have never felt so lonely and that the sadness was overpowering. Welcome to the 4th stage. Denial, bargaining, anger, acceptance. That feeling of death is accurate. That's the death of your friendship and marriage you're feeling. Of course, this isn't when it actually happened, but it is to you. This is progress. So, like, a mud baths. Exactly. The text that I sent her was my goodbye and I didn't realize it. Why has this taken so long? Lots of reasons. Mental abuse is part of it. You've been in shock for a while and got absolutely no vindication or closure. So that's where I am. Sad, regretful, and lonely, but better. My comment. Situations like the school photos. Yes, you stood your ground, but you, not her, escalated the situation. Easy to do. You thought you were defending yourself and ended up right back in the drama triangle. But you recognize that now. That is progress. The sappy text. If it took that to get you past that point, then job well done. Nice to see things have calmed down with her. Maybe she has a guy occupying her time. Maybe she is working on herself. Maybe she is hanging with other females partying it up. All that matters is what you do. What are you doing to make you a healthier, stronger person? Oh, dating. Stop taking dating so damn seriously. You are light years away from a healthy long-term relationship. Part 3 ending coming tomorrow morning. If you are single, go out there and get someone nice.